Greetings, Africa, habari, and welcome to One Africa Radio TV broadcast all the way from South Africa at Montsho Guest House, a very beautiful space where you can actually come with your family and experience beautiful, serene, calming environment at very affordable prices. Today, I am profiling the Prime Minister of the State of the African Diaspora, Dr. Louis-Georges. He is here to share with us about what the state of the African diaspora is and what the state is doing for the African continent. Please stay with me as I sit with him and profile him. You are here on One Africa Radio TV. Today I'm so excited because we are interviewing our very own Prime Minister from the state of the African diaspora, which is also known as the 6th region. Prime Minister,
good morning.
How are you, Excellency?
I'm fine, very much. Thank you very much.
I'm very well. It's such an honor to have you here in South Africa. And as One Africa Radio TV, we are so privileged to have you to be part of us and just to share more about, the experience first of South Africa before we delve into the state of the African diaspora affairs, but for you just generally, Prime Minister Dr. Louis-Georges, how is South Africa for you?
Well, it's my first time in South Africa.
Yes.
And I think it's not going to be the last one.
Okay.
And now I have some friends, so many friends, brothers and sisters in the country.
Yes.
I'm even thinking of repatriating to this country because I need to repatriate to Africa anyway.
Yes.
So why not here?
I think it will be the greatest choice. Believe me, I think it would be a great choice. Prime Minister, a lot of people know you as an activist and as a Prime Minister of the state of the African diaspora. But maybe people just want to know a little bit about you. Who is Dr. Louis-Georges? Where did you grow up? How did you grow up? What was growing up like for you?
Well, I was born in the French West Indies, Caribbean islands.
Yes.
My island is called Martinique.
Okay.
So I lived there with my family until I was 17 years old.
Yes.
Then I went to France for my studies.
Yeah.
So I started to study French literature. I got a PhD.
Yeah.
But in parallel, I started also to become an activist in human rights.
Yes.
So this is how gradually I became more and more involved in politics.
Yes. And did you ever have any challenge in terms of, for a lot of us growing up, when we are in politics, especially in our families, I'll just speak about here in South Africa, it becomes a problem for parents because they expect a child, to be either be a doctor or a nurse or a teacher. Didn't you ever come across any challenges when it came to your activism for human rights? Because that on its own is deemed as a risk, from families who actually just I want my child to be a doctor.
Well, I am a doctor,
of course,
but in literature.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have any issue because I got my PhD. I used to be a doctor in literature.
Yes.
In the finest universities in France. So I did my job.
Okay.
So after that, I could do whatever I liked because I did satisfy my parents and my family. And they were also, I think, in solidarity with the things I were doing. So there was no argument. There were, of course, they may be worried sometimes, but they did appreciate my work.
Yes. And can we come into the state of the African diaspora? If you can kindly tell our viewers, what is the state of the African diaspora?
Well, it is a house, an international house.
Yes.
Because people may not know, but there are 350 million Africans outside of Africa. So you've got people who left the continent 1, 2, 3 generations ago as migrants.
Yes.
But you also have people whose ancestors were deported 2, 3, 4, 5 centuries ago as slaves. All of them are of African descent.
Yeah.
If you think of a country like Brazil, you already have 100 million people of African descent in Brazil.
Yeah.
So all of that is the African diaspora. It's just a fact. Now, based on this fact, I was given the mandate by the President of the African Union to create a proper house.
Yes.
because you may have a few pieces of what you like, but to build a house takes a lot of energy.
Yes.
So my mission was to create the house, and now the house is called the State of the African Diaspora. And it was presented to the African Union during their summit in 2018,
yes,
July the 1st.
Wow. Whenever I think about people or our descendants or our ancestors who were shipped, because of slavery, it really hits home, because you just question yourself and ask yourself that if, African people are such good people, are such warm people who were able to welcome people into their own land, only for them to be robbed of their own wealth, their own land, their own,
identity.
And when you talk identity, they even, and I'm not really being political here, but I just want us to have a robust conversation, whereby as if you are born as Bongani Khumalo, that's your name and surname, that for the white man was not good enough. I remember when I was researching on Nelson Mandela about his name Nelson, because his real name is Rolihlahla. And for him to qualify to have a name which was deemed acceptable by the white people was for him to be baptized first, because he had to forsake who he was, and for him to actually now take on this name, which is called a Christian name, in order for them to be able to pronounce the name and for him to be acceptable. When it comes to identity of the African person, especially for the people in the diaspora who, when we travel abroad sometimes, when we say we are from Africa, they think, whoa, you are from the jungle, because of how Africa is being portrayed, outside of Africa. What are your thoughts, Dr. Louis-Georges' team, our Honorable Prime Minister, when it comes to the identity of an African person who is outside of their own continent, displaced, of course, by whatever various reasons, whether it's slavery or people who decided to move? How does the state of the African diaspora ensure in its mandate bringing back the identity of the African child?
It's very true that we have an issue with our own identity.
Yeah.
That's why Malcolm X decided to call himself Malcolm X. Because he said the name I had when I was born is not a real name. It's just the name that was given to my ancestors as slaves. I remember also Aimé Césaire, the great poet from Martinique, who wrote a very beautiful tragedy, the tragedy of King Christophe. And the hero from Haiti says, Toussaint, Christophe, all these names were given to us. These are not our names. These are not our names. Our names, only Africa knows our names. So this is very important to us. And that is why in the state of the African diaspora, 2 years ago, we adopted a bill called Culture, Ethnocide, and Sovereignty. What is an ethnocide? Everybody knows what a genocide is all about.
Yes.
You kill everybody in the population. Now, that is ugly, dirty, expensive. You need to finance equipments, people, soldiers, and it's difficult to create a genocide.
Yes.
Some people are working hard, but it's difficult. There is an easier solution. To erase the population, you just need to erase their culture. So you say you don't have the right to speak your language. You don't have the right to use your name, your traditions, your history, your heroes, your sheroes. All of that is now forbidden. In 1 or 2 generations ago, that population will disappear. So it's a kind of soft genocide, but it's still a genocide, a cultural genocide. And when the genocide don't work, you can still continue organizing an ethnocide after your genocide, because some people are still living.
Yes.
In Africa, many of these ethnocides are still going on. I have to say that They started in the context of colonization, but even after colonization, you know, you've got multinationals or sometimes even governments for the sake of development. So they say, okay, we're going to grab the land because we need it to develop the country. Well, that's nice for the population, but you are killing another population, the native people, you know. So we need to be aware of that, because why should we continue the job that did enslave us, try to annihilate our populations? That's why we said, after ethnocide, we need to be aware of, even the name, people don't know what it is. Now is the time for sovereignty. And sovereignty is important. So culture is not only a matter of culture. It's a matter of survival. And so many people were totally destroyed in Africa, in the Americas. For example, the Mayas, where are they? The Aztecs, where are they? They have disappeared through genocide and then ethnocide to finish the job. So it's only through this culture that we manage to survive and to identify as Africans in the diaspora, you know. So, for example, mothers who played a crucial role, because they would scatter the families. So there were no more families, but they would sell the mother with a child. And the mothers, what did they say to their children? They would speak the language. Even in Brazil today, in some places in Cuba, they are still speaking Yoruba. They don't even know it's Yoruba from Nigeria. But they're singing the song. They have their prayers, the Yorisha, etc., in Yoruba language. So they belong to this tradition from Africa. So that's very powerful. So when a mother teaches the child the song in Yoruba, she is maintaining a nation. So that's how we manage to survive all these atrocities.
Sure. This hits home to me because this is one of the things I'm really passionate about is my continent, Africa, and my people, who are the African people, and the acknowledgement and the respect of my ancestors. I would like to understand, Honorable Prime Minister, what is the state of the African diaspora doing in preserving knowledge? You know, I mean, as you were saying right now, there's other people that are speaking a language that they haven't even been to their homeland, you know, or their home grounds. And you would know that as Africans, our stories are actually, you know, passed down through word of mouth, you know, through storytelling, grandmothers sharing the stories to their grandchildren, mothers, like you're saying, teaching their children their mother language as they are enslaved and being sold together with the children, dividing the African family. What is the state of African diaspora doing to bring back, you know, that knowledge to be known in terms of who we are as Africans and writing our own history as people? Because that which is written out there, it's written by somebody else who wants us to be viewed at a certain light as Africans. And yet our stories are actually not really documented as much as they should be. I mean, somebody was saying to me recently, you know, if you take a black child and give them a book and expect them to read it, it's a problem. And mainly because our children, and from generations far back, it was a matter of conveying, you know, messages and stories and information of our great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers, our ancestors down to the generations. I actually know back to about 4 generations or 5 generations back. I do know that I'm a descendant of the Egyptians. And when it comes to now you understanding where you come from as a person in the diaspora, it's difficult because you don't even know exactly where your great-grandmother was born. How is the state of the African diaspora ensuring the documenting of our stories according to us, by us, and for our people?
It is true that I don't know for myself, for example, exactly where my ancestors were deported from.
Yeah.
I believe it was partially from Benin, partially from Congo. But to be honest, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
What I want to know is they're coming from Africa. And for me, that's enough. Probably many places of Africa, these countries did not exist in the past. So I'm not Beninese, I'm not Nigerian, I'm not Congolese, I'm African.
Yes.
However, we need to teach, of course, our young generation about the continent and the diaspora.
Yes.
That's why we have a few legislations. I mentioned, for example, this law about culture, ethnocide, and sovereignty. So it clearly states that we have official languages. Of course, we would have the colonial languages.
Yes.
Because it's easier, like French, English, Portuguese, Spanish.
Yeah.
But we also have Yoruba.
Yes.
We also have Swahili.
Yeah.
We also have Creole,
yes.
which is a language spoken in my island, in Haiti, it's a mixture of African languages and European languages.
Yes.
So that's one thing. We have national days celebrating our national heroes and sheroes.
Yes.
So, for example, we've got Carlota Day that we celebrated a few days ago from Cuba. So she's a hero. She fought against slavery.
Yes.
We've got Nani Day, same thing, a great leader in Jamaica. We've got Zumbi and Dandara Day, both of them a couple in Brazil. So, of course, we've got Lumumba Day.
Yes.
We've got Kwame Nkrumah Day.
Yeah.
So that's a way to maintain the tradition. We have a program to build smart cities. Many of these smart cities will be based on history.
Yes.
One, for example, in Ghana will be called the City of Panafrican Heroes. And it's not just the name, it will be also inscribed in the architecture, in the buildings and everything. So we've got a city in Madagascar will be named after the national hero of Madagascar.
Yeah.
So in many aspects of our job, these traditions are maintained, even reinforced, built in stone, so that nobody can forget anymore about who we are and what we want to achieve in this world.
Wow, built in stone. Powerful. People don't know about the state of the African diaspora. They think it's an NGO. I think recently when we went to the Pan-African Parliament, I also had some other questions, by the way, where I was asked, so who are you guys? Are you one of the NGOs of the African diaspora? Because there's a whole lot of them. If you can kindly clarify, Honorable Prime Minister, what is the state of the African diaspora in this whole space of us in Africa being North Africa, East, South, West, Central? What then is the state of African diaspora and what does it consist of?
It is based on the resolution adopted by the head of state of the African Union. Because in 2003, they said the African diaspora shall be regarded as the sixth region of Africa.
Yes.
On the continent, you already have 5 regions.
Yes.
North, South, East, West, and Center.
Yeah.
They said the diaspora is the sixth region. Now, because they gave me this mandate to create a body to represent the whole of it, that's why it becomes a state. Because they say it's a region.
Yes.
So within this region, we had to build a state. Like in ECOWAS, for example, you've got Nigeria or Benin.
Yes.
Or in SADC, you've got South Africa or Angola.
Yes.
So in the sixth region, we had to create a state. And that's why I had this mandate and had the support of the African Union. And now it's necessary because NGOs are necessary as well.
Yes.
But there are thousands of NGOs.
That's true.
There is only one state of the African diaspora. And the level of engagement that we need to have requires a state and a region. For example, if you want to discuss climate change, the level of this issue, it's not about an NGO making a well in the desert.
Yes.
It has to be a huge matter with huge resources, dozens of billions of dollars, which we have.
Yes, which we have.
Yes.
Yes.
An NGO couldn't do that. So it's important to have NGOs in the villages, but we cannot reach out to these villages. So we can complement each other. But when you have to discuss with the United Nations, you don't want to discuss to solve the problem of every single village of Africa.
Exactly.
It would be too long. We have to bring solutions for a whole continent. And an NGO would be too small.
Yes.
A state is even too small. It has to be a whole region.
Yes.
It has to be a whole Africa.
That's true.
A whole Africa united. So it was necessary not to create an NGO which would do exactly the same thing as other NGOs are already doing. And that's fine. We had to go to do something on another level. So when you speak of climate change, obviously, when you speak of reparation about slavery or colonization, when you speak of gender issues, when you speak of all agriculture on the continent, all these issues require a certain level of engagement.
Yes.
That's why we decided as a diaspora, because we are 350 million people, it cannot be an NGO.
Yes.
You know, an NGO, such a big NGO, well, that's a state, de facto. So that's why I came with this constitution, and I received the support of many institutions in the world.
Yes.
We are represented in the UN, we are represented in the African Union. Gradually, things are moving forward.
Yes.
So that's the level and the power that was necessary.
And then when we talk about the ministries in the state of the African diaspora, would you like to touch on them, on which offices, the ministries that are fully there, ready to serve the people of Africa?
Yes, we are, of course, organized like many states.
Yes.
The only difference is the fact we are a state without border. But apart from that, we have ministries in the cabinet. So I'm the Prime Minister, the head of state.
Yes.
We've got 2 Vice Prime Ministers.
Yes.
We've got the Minister of Education, Health, Mines, Energy, Economy, etc. We even have a ministry in charge of space and research and technologies.
Yes.
And we've got big names. For example, our minister in charge of sciences and technologies is Sheikh Modibo Diarra, who used to be the Prime Minister of Mali, and who was also a project director in the NASA. We have also our Minister of Culture, it's Yuzan Palsi, coming from Martinique, my island.
Yes.
And she is a filmmaker. Yes. And she is the only black person who ever received an Oscar for her lifetime achievement. And she's in charge, for example, of building the Sollywood. Sollywood, what is it? It's the SOAD Hollywood.
Yes.
Which means a city of cinema. Like Hollywood in the United States, like Nollywood in Nigeria, Bollywood in India.
In India.
We need to have another city based on African cinema. You were asking how we can maintain our culture. That's another way, because we need to tell our stories. And I believe somebody like her, she makes many beautiful movies. One of them is about this country. It was shot in the time of apartheid. It's called A Dry and White Season, based on the novel, which is also well known. And she risked her life to do this movie.
Sure.
And she's the one also who shot a movie about the first black girl who went to a white school in the United States. Now, many of the movies of Yuzan Palsi are forbidden in the United States, because many of these movies or books are cancelled. When you speak about racism now in many places in the United States, especially the conservative area, of course. So now they say, if you speak about racism, people will feel uncomfortable. So you shouldn't mention that. So some of these of her movies, even after she received this Oscar, now are going in the process of censorship.
Sure.
So of course we need to, that's another reason why we need to promote her.
Yes.
We need to build a city of cinema, perhaps in South Africa, if we can sign with the government. If the government wants us to come and build a smart city based on cinema, when we have the resources to do so.
Yes. People don't know, Prime Minister, that the state of the African diaspora has done a lot, especially when it comes to the artifacts which were stolen from our ancestors. Can you please touch a little bit on that, on how you have made it possible for some of the countries to receive back their artifacts?
People need to know that 95% of the artifacts of Africa are detained out of Africa.
Yeah.
So they are detained in the British Museum in UK, in the Louvre in France, in the Tavern Museum in Belgium, in Germany, in Switzerland, even in the United States. That's a shame. That is a matter of culture, of course, a matter of justice, a matter of development through tourism, also a matter of sovereignty. Mind you, in Zimbabwe, for example, it's not the Minister of Culture who is in charge of that issue, it's the Minister of Home Affairs, because it's a matter of sovereignty.
Yeah.
When you allow people from outside to come, kill your population, loot the fine arts, or take the spiritual arts, it's a matter of security, high security.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to us, because if you don't complain, if you don't do anything about it when people come and steal all the things you have in your state, you don't have any state. So based on that, we started a campaign, which was successful in the case of Benin. We said to the government of France, we're going to take you to court. We made the necessary lobbying, it worked. So Mr. Macron had to make the speech he made for Benin. And I was invited to Benin by President Talon, who was very happy to have all this restitution. We worked, of course, together.
Yes.
And thanks to that, Benin could recover their artifacts. And now they are in the palace of the president, and now they are being transferred to the museum that was built especially for security and high security. And the population is very proud, and we are very happy. Now, it's not only about Benin. All the countries of Africa went through the same process of looting.
Yes.
That's why we are asking them, we cannot do anything without you. You need to give us a mandate. Because myself, I don't have any legitimacy to do so. But if you give me a mandate, I can fight for you.
Yes.
And it's even easier for me than for you, because I live in the very countries where these artifacts are detained.
Yes.
I know where they are. I can have the inventories. I know who is holding these artifacts, how it works. So that's one of the things we can work together. I remember when I discussed initially with Mrs. Dlamini Zuma,
Yes.
Her Excellency, who was then the president of the African Union
Yes.
Commission. And she told me, I know your work in the area of restitution and reparation.
Yes.
And I believe there are some things that the African Union can do and you can't. But reversely, think that the African Union cannot do and you can. So we need to work together, and she was right. And I want to pay a tribute to her because we call her Mama Soad.
Yes.
Because she is the one who gave me the inspiration.
Wow.
Before that, I wouldn't even, have the audacity to embrace such a great mission. But she told me, because I was asking, Excellency, what are you doing for the diaspora? And she told me, what are you saying? I have enough to do on the continent.
Yeah.
You need to organize yourself.
Yeah.
You need to do all this job. In fact, I'm giving you this mission in my capacity. And when you are fully organized in the diaspora, now we can work together. And she was right, She had to kick my ass, if you excuse my French. And she was so powerful. We love her so much.
Yes.
And now the time comes for a full cooperation. We are saying to the countries of Africa, give us a mandate. We are saying to the regions of Africa, give us the mandate. Because it's not something that will happen by nature.
Yeah.
It's a battle. And it's one of the many things that were stolen from us.
Yes.
It's just a metonymy. Yeah, that's a technical word. It's a part.
Yes.
But everything was stolen, not only artifacts, of course, land,
Yes.
of course, mineral resources, cultures, lives. Yes. Something cannot be repaired, of course. Some things can and shall be repaired. So I'm very glad that the African Union decided that the next year will be based on reparation.
Yes.
We were discussing that yesterday with the authorities of the parliament.
Yes.
And we certainly need to fight. That's a big fight, but a very important fight, because that's the only way to be respected.
Yes.
If you allow other people to shoot you, to kill you, to steal all the things that you have, you will have no future.
Yeah.
You'll have no future.
And this must be done for future generations.
Exactly. That's the way how we can protect our families.
You have said something very exciting, if I may put it like that, for a lack of a better word, but I think it's for the betterment. Again, for a lack of better wording there, in terms of the funds, the state of the African diaspora has got money. And there are programs which you spoke about, like the building of the smart cities. And of course, there's other projects which are part of which are part of the State of the African Diaspora agenda in helping the governments of various regions in the African continent. Can you kindly share about that and how it is that the governments can also assist, especially in signing of the cooperation agreements, in order for the funds to be paid into their regions in order for the projects to start happening in Africa?
We have access to international fundings, especially in the context of climate change.
Yes.
As we know, Africa contributes only to 5% of climate change,
yeah.
but 2/3 of the climate disasters will happen and are already happening in Africa.
Yes.
Look at what's happening in Chad, Nigeria, for example, recently in Tanzania, in Kenya, all these floods, droughts, so absence of crops. The coast of Western Africa are being destroyed, and now the people need to be relocated. Who is going to pay for all of that? Is it the victims or the culprit? That's why there is what we call climate justice.
Yes.
International funds were made available to mitigate these disasters. So we have partnership with our partners,
yes.
and we would be happy to extend this privilege to African countries. And we just need to sign cooperation agreements. It's not alone. It's not alone because it's climate justice.
Yes.
Justice is not a business.
Yes.
These funds are available for all the countries who would like to benefit from them. It's just a matter of signing 2 documents. It's very easy. And through these funds, we can then mitigate climate change, pay education, health, clean energy, clean transport, access to water, agriculture, fight against poverty. All of these things are part of the Sustainable Development Goals,
yes.
the SDGs.
Yes,
so there are funds made available for this. We just need to establish connections with the governments.
Yes.
That's part of the reason why I'm here in this country. But all the countries of Africa are eligible. The Global South in general
yes.
is eligible.
And maybe in closing, before we close, you are here and you are attending the Pan-African Parliament. How has the experience been for you, and how have you been received by the Pan-African Parliament?
I have to say I've been very welcome. I have to pay a tribute to Chief Charongira, who is the president of
yes.
this body,
yes.
this noble body. He's also the co-chair of our Royal Chamber because he's also a chief in yes. Zimbabwe. So we manage also to meet a lot of people from Mauritania to Madagascar. Now we have a lot of friends.
Yes.
And that's very good because diplomacy is not only about interest and economy, it's also about family.
Yes.
So based on that, we are now in a better position to create these connections.
Yes.
Because the world is about connections.
That's true.
If you have, for example, a good network, you will find a job for yourself, an internship for your children,
yes.
a doctor, a lawyer if need be, a house, etc. If you don't have any network, you will be isolated.
That's true.
The continent is not even isolated. We tend to work with the very people who enslaved us in the past. And we are sometimes working with people who potentially may be a threat for us in the future. So why would we continue to do so? All these forums, Africa France, Africa blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
What about the Africa Diaspora Summit?
Yes. Yes.
So that's something we brought to the table yesterday to the Pan-African Parliament. I cannot say more. It's premature.
Exciting.
But you can guess a little bit what's going on.
Yes.
So, yes, I think that the network Africa has is beautiful. Africa is beautiful. We need to work together to establish this potential, this very powerful network. And that's the diaspora. So our logo is actually this one.
Yes.
And we want to reinforce Africa through the diaspora and the diaspora through Africa. And you can see the big continent with all the birds flying around. You know, they are leaving the continent in the context of blood and tragedy. That's why it's red. It's blue. It's, of course, red here and blue because you're going through the ocean or the sky. And you come to another country. But when you come back to the continent, it's golden because you come back in your glory.
Oh, yes.
So that's why, yes, we've got this beautiful flag.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. This is so beautiful, Prime Minister. What would you like to say in closing? I enjoy having these conversations with you because I feel that there is a lot of things that we can achieve together as the African people and as our leader, being our Prime Minister as well. What would you like to say to the people of the state of the African diaspora? What should they look out for? What is happening right now? I know there's a whole lot of things happening. I mean, I'm a citizen of the state of the African diaspora. There's a lot of other people who don't know that they can be citizens of this home, which we have found ourselves for us, you know, and not us are benefiting. There's a whole lot of things that are happening. There's a university we're studying. You know, you are grooming your leaders, and your leadership style is so different because you are so flexible. And it's one of the first things I noticed about you. I was like, whoop, I think I'm going to enjoy it, you know, being in this space because of the manner in which you are accessible and genuinely because you love people, humankind, especially our African people. What would you like to say to our people, Prime Minister?
I remember when I was in Benin for our campaign on restitution, I was coming back to the hotel, and then I met a young boy, 15 or 16 years old, in the street, and he said, I saw you on television yesterday. I think you were speaking about treasure, etc.
Yes.
I said, yes, it was probably me. And he said, do you actually believe you can achieve this? Because all these treasures were stolen by the colonizers, you know, by the French troops. So how can you do that? And I say, you know, I believe in it. If I thought it was impossible, I wouldn't be here spending all my money to make it happen. And he said, you know why? I think I need to create my garage. I could see the stars in his eye. And I understand what he meant because for many years, this boy had been willing to create a garage. That's his passion. But he always thought he was too poor, too black, too African to even try. So he never tried. Of course, when you don't try, you fail. Yeah. But now he saw a guy, me, trying to do something that is very difficult, perhaps impossible. He said, but if he's trying, at least I could perhaps try myself.
Yes.
And he said, myself, I can make my garage. And you know, a garage is about reparation, isn't it?
Yes.
So I think it's a very good symbol.
Wow.
So I don't want every African person to be an expert in art. Myself, I'm not an expert in art. But I want every African person to be an expert of their dreams. And this is what we need to do and make them reality. We don't need to forget about our dreams. We need our dreams to become a reality. That's the message I would have for every single person on the continent and in the diaspora.
Wow. My Honorable Prime Minister, it was such an honor to be sitting with you as One Africa Radio TV and as one of your own as well. I just want to say we have gotten started and we haven't even scratched the surface, but the evidence is very big and it's very real. And thank you so much for sharing yourself with the world and to actually even fight for the causes which I myself thought, because I remember when I was researching about, you know, the stolen artifacts, you know, and all of those things, and I'd like, these people, you know, when you watch movies, you get the anger, but when the anger is not directed into the right things in order to rectify and for the restitution, you know, of our continent and our people in the diaspora, it doesn't do anything. So your resilience, your passion, and your commitment, and your accessibility and your flexibility is going to continue to make the causes of the state of the African diaspora to be a success. We are behind you, and the whole of the continent is behind you. As a Pan-Africanist radio station and TV station, we are going to support you in every way we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
Thank you. That was our president, rather, our prime minister, Dr. Louis-Georges' team, the prime minister. Okay, I'll take it from here today. Okay. What a wonderful conversation with our prime minister, Dr. Louis-Georges' team from the State of the African Diaspora. I urge you to please go onto the State of the African Diaspora website, thestateoftheafricandiaspora.com, and get to familiarize yourself with the great work that is happening in the State of the African Diaspora. And please don't forget to follow our page on One Africa Radio TV. We are on TikTok, we are on Twitter, we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, on all our social media platforms. Please do follow us and continue to be beautiful. And remember, African, you are not too black or too dull or too African to do things. That, because you are African, is exactly that which should give you the strength to continue to do big. From me, Montsho, I just want to say, Uhuru Africa, Uhuru Diaspora. Thank you so much.